There comes a moment, often sometime after 60, when you find yourself staring at the same chair, the same walls, the same hallway you've walked 1,000 times before. You love your home, you love your peace, but something inside starts to feel still. Not the good kind of still, not the kind that feels like rest, the kind that feels like waiting. For what? You're not even sure. You read, you water the plants, you do your best to stay busy. But there's a quiet question forming underneath it all. Where did my sense of aliveness go? Not your health, not your memory, not your purpose, just that spark, that unexpected joy that used to rise when you lost track of time. That moment of forgetting what hurts, what's missing, what didn't turn out the way you hoped. That's what hobbies used to give us. A little escape, a little meaning, a little return to wonder. But somewhere along the way, the word hobby got boxed in. It started to sound like crafts or bird watching or things that belong to someone else. And maybe you've told yourself, it's too late to pick up something new. I'm not good with my hands. That's for people with more energy than me. But here's the truth. You don't need to be good at a hobby for it to change your life. You just need to be curious. Because the right kind of hobby doesn't just fill time, it expands it. It creates room in your chest again. It reconnects parts of you that have been on pause. It helps you meet yourself not through routine, but through play. And play is not childish. Play is medicine. For the brain, for the spirit, for the parts of you that still want to feel new again. Today, I want to share with you 6 unusual hobbies. Not because they're trendy, not because they're productive, but because they bring something back. Something real. They don't require talent, or money, or a full schedule. Just a little courage, and a willingness to try something unexpected. We'll walk through 6 surprising hobbies that aren't just fun. They restore something deep inside. Some you may have never considered. Some might make you smile in disbelief. But each one has the power to lift your spirits in a quiet, lasting way. Let's begin with something unexpected. Not with your hands, but with your voice. Because singing isn't just about performance. It's about vibration, connection, and letting your breath become something joyful again. You don't need a stage. You don't need a microphone. You don't even need anyone listening. What you need, what your body craves more than you realize, is vibration. And that's what singing gives you. It's not about being in tune. It's not about knowing the words. It's about letting your breath become sound again. Full, unapologetic, alive. This first unusual hobby may surprise you. Singing for yourself. Not to impress, not to perform, but to feel something move through you. Because after a certain age, many people begin to shrink their presence. Their voice gets quieter. Their opinions get softer. They stop laughing out loud. And slowly, they forget what it feels like to take up space with sound. But when you sing, even softly, even imperfectly, you remind your nervous system, I'm still here. Singing stimulates the vagus nerve, which is directly connected to your parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calm, digestion, and healing. It improves oxygen flow, reduces anxiety, regulates the heart, and it lifts your mood in a way that medication sometimes can't. You don't need a songbook, just a melody, one you love, from your youth, from the radio, from the back of your memory. Hum it while you wash the dishes. Sing softly in the shower. Try a hymn, an old jazz tune, a Beatles chorus, a lullaby. Let the words rise from your chest. Don't judge the sound. Feel the resonance. Let it move through your throat, your jaw, your chest. Your body is an instrument, whether anyone's told you that or not. And when you use it this way, just for you, it becomes a source of warmth, of presence, of quiet joy. Carol, 74, joined an online choir during the pandemic. I didn't think I had a voice worth sharing, she said. But once I started humming again, something softened inside me. I felt like I had breath again, not just in my lungs, but in my spirit. You don't need a choir. You don't need a teacher. Just a moment of sound. Each day, even 30 seconds. You might notice, over time, your shoulders drop. Your mood lifts. Your posture straightens. Your emotions flow more easily. That's not magic. That's what happens when we return our voice to our own ears. If you're feeling brave, try recording yourself singing and listening back. Not to critique, but to witness. To hear the version of you that still wants to be expressed. Singing isn't silly. It's ancient, and it's yours to reclaim. But maybe your voice isn't where you want to begin. That's okay. The next hobby doesn't use your breath. It uses your fingertips, and a few pages, and a story that only you can tell. Let's talk about the surprising joy of writing letters you never sent. Not every letter is meant to be read. Some are meant to be released, to pour out the thoughts that never found a home, to say the things you couldn't say at the time, to give yourself the freedom to speak without consequences. That's the idea behind the second hobby that's quietly transformed the emotional health of so many people over 60, writing letters you never sent. You don't need a fancy notebook, just paper, a pen, a quiet place where no one's waiting for a result. This isn't journaling. Journaling is often a record. This is something else. It's permission to write what's real, what's raw, what still lingers inside. A letter to someone you lost, to someone who hurt you, to a part of yourself from another time, to your body, to the life you thought you'd have, to a friend you miss, to the child version of you. You can write to a person who's alive or someone long gone. You could be angry, grateful, honest, unsure. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you write. Longhand, preferably. Let the thoughts come faster than your doubts. Let the ink be messy. Let your heart speak in sentences your voice never had the chance to form. Because when we write letters like this, we give ourselves a place to put our truth. And the body responds. Grief gets lighter. Guilt loosens. Old stories lose their edge. And something in the chest, something tight, finally exhales. Mark, 77, started this practice after his brother passed. We had unresolved things, he said. Years of silence. I carried it around like a backpack full of stones. He wrote a letter, then another, then another. I didn't forgive everything, he told me, but I forgave myself. I said the things I needed to say. Now he writes once a week, not always about grief. Sometimes just to clarify his own thoughts. Sometimes to his future self. Sometimes to no one in particular. The key? He never sends them. Some he keeps. Some he tears up. A few he's burned. But all of them helped him feel less invisible to himself. And that's the real gift. This kind of writing brings your story back into your own hands. Not for editing, but for witnessing. You get to be seen by the one person whose presence matters most. You. And once your thoughts are on paper, something surprising happens. You don't just feel lighter. You feel more creative. Like something inside has space again. And from that space, another kind of play can emerge. One that doesn't involve words or sound, but motion, rhythm, flow. Let's move next to a hobby you may not have considered since childhood, but one that speaks directly to the nervous system. Something that works not just through the hands, but through repetition, calm, and tactile joy. I'm talking about the unexpected magic of handcrafts that ground you. There's a kind of peace that lives in your hands. You might forget it's there until you touch something soft, something textured, something real. You begin to move, not for exercise, not for work, but for rhythm, for stillness inside motion. This is where the third hobby lives, tactile handcrafts that quiet the mind. Not the kind you make to sell, not the kind you need to show off. The kind you do for the joy of process, not product. Think knitting, crocheting, weaving, beading, whittling wood, rolling paper into spirals, shaping clay into bowls or creatures, stitching thread into cloth. The goal isn't beauty. The goal is presence. Something special happens when your fingers take over, when your thoughts are allowed to drift, and your breath slows down to match your movement. You might be surprised at how calm you feel after just 10 minutes of soft focus. That's not coincidence. It's how your brain responds to pattern and texture and gentle control. Crafting by hand is deeply regulating to the nervous system. It lowers stress hormones. It creates flow. It improves fine motor skills. It even boosts serotonin, the feel-good chemical that tends to drop as we age. And for those who feel restless, anxious, or scattered, it offers an anchor, a place to come back to, a project that waits without pressure. Maria, 69, picked up embroidery after her sister gave her a kit as a joke. I thought it was silly, she said, but when I started stitching, I couldn't believe how quiet I felt inside. She now has a drawer full of patterns, most unfinished. And that's okay. I don't care if I finish, she told me. I care that I sit down with something that doesn't ask anything of me except presence. That's the power of these kinds of hobbies. They give your hands something kind to do. They give your brain a break from solving and fixing. And they give your heart a small, steady rhythm to follow. Some people say, but I'm not artistic. That's fine. You don't need to be. You can braid strips of fabric, shape salto, stamp patterns into clay, even string buttons on a thread. You can make something or nothing. It doesn't matter. The act is the gift of your own attention, softly held. And from that stillness, from that rhythm, many people begin to feel something return, curiosity, a gentle spark of playfulness. And that spark is exactly what leads to our next hobby, one you've likely never been encouraged to try as an adult. Something bold, strange, beautiful, something that lets you reconnect with the part of yourself that isn't trying to be correct, but to be free. And for that, we're going to need some paint. When was the last time you picked up a paintbrush? Not to decorate a room, not to help a grandchild with a school project, but just for you, just to see what color feels like in your hands. If it's been decades or never, then this might surprise you. Because the fourth hobby that quietly lifts the spirit isn't about art. It's about freedom, intuitive painting, messy, playful, color-soaked expression, the kind that has no plan, no rules, no goal, just a blank page, some water, a few brushes, and your breath. You don't need to know what you're doing. You don't need to know what it's going to become. You don't even need to like it when it's done. What matters is that you allow yourself to make marks, to swirl, to press, to drip, to drag color across the page until your hands and your eyes are in quiet conversation. This kind of creative movement reactivates pathways in the brain that often go dormant with age. It strengthens connections between imagination, emotion, and motor skills. And more importantly, it brings play back into the body, something we don't realize we've been missing until we feel it again. And yes, it can be vulnerable. Putting color on a page without a plan. Watching your hand move without certainty. But in that vulnerability is something deeply healing. You let go of control. You let go of needing to get it right. You let the page receive what you feel, not what you think. Sandra, 72, started painting with a small $8 watercolor set she bought on a whim. I didn't know how to blend, she said. I didn't know anything. She set a timer for 10 minutes every afternoon. No talking, no judgment, just color. Now I have a drawer full of pages, she said. Some are ugly, some are beautiful, but every one of them was honest. That's the point. Not to create masterpieces, but to give shape to your feelings. To move emotion through brush and pigment and space. You can use watercolors, acrylics, pastels, even markers. Paint over old magazines. Use your fingers. Use a kitchen sponge. There are no wrong tools. Only the question, what would happen if I stopped thinking and started moving? This isn't about talent. It's about trust. And the more you let yourself move with color, the more you realize you're still full of something vibrant, something that never stopped wanting to be expressed, something that might not have words, but knows how to speak. And once you've remembered what it feels like to create without pressure, there's one more step to consider. One more hobby that shifts not what you do, but how you walk through the world. A practice that requires no materials, no money, no experience, just your eyes, your presence, and your willingness to be surprised again. Let's go there next. Not every hobby requires your hands. Some begin with your eyes, and they don't ask you to fix, change, or even create anything. They ask you to notice. That's it. To shift your attention away from what's broken or boring or routine, and turn it gently toward what's beautiful, toward what's still here, still whispering, still blooming. The sixth and final hobby is perhaps the quietest of all, but also the one that changed me the most, everyday noticing. Some call it slow observation. Others might call it visual meditation. For me, it became a kind of gentle game, one where I look for something beautiful, interesting, or quietly strange every day and name it. Not out loud, not on social media, just in my head. Sometimes I take a picture. Sometimes I sketch it later. Sometimes I do nothing but look. A ripple in the puddle. The shadow of a fence on the sidewalk. A crooked flower growing out of concrete. The way my hands look in the morning light. The rhythm of a pigeon's wings overhead. It doesn't have to be grand. In fact, the smaller it is, the more powerful the noticing becomes. Because what you're training is not your artistic eye, but your attention. You're telling your brain, I want to see what's good, what's interesting, what's alive. And your brain, grateful to be led somewhere soft, begins to filter the world differently. Stress lessens, awe increases, and in the middle of an ordinary day, you might feel something return. A lift in your chest, a breath that feels deeper, a moment of stillness that isn't empty, but full. George, 80, told me he walks the same route every morning. I used to tune it all out, he said. Just walk with my head down. Then he started this practice. One beautiful thing per day. Now he walks slower, smiles more. It's like the street is talking to me, he said. It's like I'm part of something again. And he is. We all are. But we forget. Noticing brings us back. You don't need a notebook. But if it helps, keep one. You don't need to make art. But if something calls you, follow it. Sit on a bench and watch the clouds. Study how light hits your kitchen floor. Find patterns in broken things. Witness your own breath as an event. The world hasn't stopped offering beauty. We've just stopped noticing. This hobby won't fill a shelf, but it will fill you with gentleness, with perspective, with a reminder that even now, even here, you are still allowed to be amazed. And that brings us full circle. 6 unusual hobbies. Singing, even softly. Writing letters that no one needs to read. Letting your hands create for the sake of rhythm. Playing with paint like a child. Letting your eyes rediscover wonder. None of these require perfection. None demand results. All they ask is that you show up with curiosity, with softness, with the part of yourself that still wants to feel joy again. You're not too old to try something new. You're not too late to feel wonder again. And your spirit? It hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been waiting for you to come home to it. Thank you for being here. If one of these ideas spoke to you, tell us in the comments. Share what you're curious to try. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back next time for more honest, gentle ways to feel more alive right where you are.